my co-panelist, Prof. Brother Martin, and my very good friend, Sam George. Barakada Salah, the good people of Timpani constituency and Ghana at large.
Indeed. We'll all do it at the end of the show. Sure, yes. It is important.
It now explains your outfit.
Absolutely.
Now,
they should be circumspect in their riding of motorbikes.
I will soon deal with the issues in a greater detail.
Right.
But let me first establish that we owe a duty of care to protect our environment for the sake of now and posterity. I have said it, and I will say it in my preliminary comments this morning again, that on several fora I have attended, both within and outside of this country, I have said that we are preparing ourselves for mass suicide tomorrow as a country. Mass suicide because our activities, engagement, and conduct will eventually destroy nature and destroy us completely. I have said this, and I still stand by what I have said previously. As a people, we appear to be interested so much in gratification of the body today and forgetting about posterity, that little economic benefits to our person and selves are becoming one too many than what we are thinking about posterity and the future, for that matter. But let me go to the Constitution 1992. And I'm happy my brother Kwebu is here. Now, when you look at the directive principles of state policy, Article 36, particularly 36(9) of our Constitution, it says, and my brother, with your permission, yes, the state shall take appropriate measures needed to protect and safeguard the national environment for posterity, and shall seek cooperation with other states and bodies for purposes of protecting the wider international environment for mankind. This is a constitutional injunction that all of us are enjoined and called upon to uphold to the latter for the sake of today and posterity. Now, if you play this constitutional injunction against the backdrop of happenings over the years, not just in the last 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, but over the last 20, 30 years in our constitutional democracy, what deliberate policies have we put in place to safeguard the environment for the purposes of the present and future generations? Very important and a big challenge and a statement that we need to take cognizance of. What we are doing now, we are engaging simply in unbridled, unrestrained, reckless, and unregulated environmental destruction. That's what we are doing as a people. And I have said it time and again that the earlier something drastic was done about it, the better for all of us. Now, His Excellency, the President of the Republic, I'm tying it down to this report, stated, and I heard a sound bite again this morning by a very reputed medium, that he was ready to put his presidency on the line. And for me, he did put his presidency on the line. I will come back to the report. But Mr. Okanse, look at what happened in the communities or the constituencies where mining was endemic. 90 to 95% of them in the 2020 elections, the New Patriotic Party lost. That's a statement of fact. Pristia, Uni Valley, those areas in the western region, mining endemic communities, even where we won, it was very narrow, like Takwa and Swaim and all that. So if you look at the statement, if you analyze the president's statement carefully against the backdrop of happenings in the country leading to the 2020 elections, you will realize that indeed His Excellency the President, by elevating the fight and asking Operation Vanguard to actually ensure that the environment was protected and going to the sites to stop illegal mining and etc., affected the voting fortunes of the New Patriotic Party in the 2020 election. That cannot be in dispute at all.
Would you say that that particular outcome or that impact of his statement may have just then weakened the resolve to fight it now because of the threat of the political loss that you suffered?
Well, I cannot come to that conclusion, but I will continue to look at the issue holistically. Alfred, if you look at the president's statement, as I said, against the backdrop of the happenings and the fact that you need to have political power first before you can even implement whatever ideas you have, and the advocacy by CSOs and other individuals for the protection of our environment and etc. If you look at all that and play it against the backdrop of happenings, as I said, His Excellency the President actually put his presidency on the line. That is a statement of fact, and I don't think that anybody will contradict that. My brother George pointed out what happened at Chebi. If you look at the report, it is very clear from the report, and I mean, without any contradiction, if you take it for what it is, prima facie, it established a lot of damning things. That's a statement of fact. Mm-hmm. So even when George mentioned that Prof in his report indicated that even the president's own garden was affected and all that. Remember, Prof also added that the president was not aware.
Yes.
It's part of the report.
That's a feeling in itself.
He was not aware that this was the situation at his own backyard. He wasn't aware. And remember that the president is not omniscient and omnipotent and omnipresent. He's not. He relies on information provided by actors and agents who are mandated to do so by law and who are employed by the state so to do. So it is not possible, if the information hasn't come to his attention by those he has actually put in place to give him that report, if they haven't brought it to his attention, it is impossible for him to know. That's a statement of fact.
But does it not raise some curiosity, at least for you, that if, even though Professor Kpemka establishes in the report that the president wasn't aware that his backyard, his garden in the house in Chebi, there was Galamsey going on, his backyard had been dug. And people not living in that house, that's number one.
It's not guarded by the police.
Is it not a national security facility? That is the president's
So that's why I'm not coming to tell you. So that's why I'm saying that the actors
who were there did not inform the president or take action.
That's why I'm saying that. I agree with this your intervention totally, and I'm saying that those who have been employed by the state to take care of the president's security to that extent that the president wasn't aware that Galamsey was ravaging his own garden, it means that those people who were employed as security to ensure the safety of the president had failed him. That's what I will say with that respect. Because if they had actually drawn his attention to it and put in measures to stop it, then Prof would not have moved there with excavators to go and reclaim the land and all that. That I agree. But the point is, look, Galamsey is, for me, is an organized crime. Organized crime because the way it is being carried out, if you even find yourself as a stumbling block and they will have to get you out by even taking your life in order for them to carry out their activity, they will do it anyway. So, for me, all of us need to put our hands on the wheel and ensure that we elevate the fight to another level. Otherwise, the report we are reading may not even be as damning as we think. You know, I have said it several times that as a country, probably one of the most underreported, under-discussed, and under-analyzed crimes is Galamsey. We have completely underreported the devastating impact and effect of Galamsey on our environment. We have underestimated it. And for me, we probably will count the cost in grave billions in years to come if care is not taken to turn the tide and it continues the way it is. Because look, if you go to my constituency, which mining is not taking place, you will find that the majority of the working age have migrated to the Galamsey areas. Some of them with degrees, diplomas, and etc. without jobs have all migrated to the area there. And they continue to wreak complete destruction of the environment, and they come home, some of them happy that they've been able to make their grass green by engaging in Galamsey and all that. And look, look, most of the areas that they are even operating, cannot be accessed by the security. If you go to the area where the soldiers will drive their cars to the roadside and then park and move in and try to flash out 1 or 2 persons, what about the areas where vehicles cannot have access? What happens? Those areas where a vehicle cannot have access to the place. Deep in the forest, you have people walking 10, 20 kilometers deep into the forest to go and do illegal mining. Now, I gave an example the other time of a nephew in the western region who went home to perform his father's funeral and returned and realized that his 10-acre cocoa farm had been completely razed down. Completely. The case is currently in court by an illegal miner who collaborated with a chief of the area. And then they got the entire cocoa farm brought down. So when he took it to court, I was even of the thinking that the police would have initiated some prosecutions. But the person is there, I mean, it is civil litigation as we speak. What about the criminal? Because the person didn't have license to do what he even did anyway. What is happening? And when the gentleman reported the matter to police, initially there was dragging of feet until they told him that he should go to court. What about the criminal component? Mind you, in 2020, we amended the law. And you can go to jail for up to 15 years. You know, and then this time you can either be fined or you go to jail or both. So we've enhanced the punishment, all with the aim of fighting Galamsey or taking the fight against Galamsey to another level. But just before I wind up.
But you know that it's one thing actually enhancing the law, and it's another thing implementing the law to check the said illegality for which the law has been enhanced.
I agree. Because, I mean, we have, as somebody once said, we have all the beautiful laws in Ghana that we have enacted. Our parliament has done due diligence and done so well in enacting beautiful laws, but our problem may be just the implementation of those laws for the benefit of the people. But just quickly on the report, if you look at it, there are individual actors who the prof is indicting. But what appears very interesting is he indicts all those persons, but exonerates himself. You know, and that's what is very interesting. The other people who work with him may also have some commentary to run on him. You know, but look at the various pages, page 3 and 16, which there's a mention of the very respected lawyer Gabi Asare Ochiridako. And he has responded, 3 and 16. Then page 10, you have the Venerable Sir John. And there's commentary on him. And then you also have page 12 on Sam Kwam. That's the Honorable former MP. Then page 15, you have Charles Owusu, who was working with Sir John. And then the senior minister, then now senior advisor, mentioned at page 26 and all that. These have all been mentioned specifically. And as we have all said, as lawyers, myself and Martin, we will say that, you know, we are unable sometimes to pass full judgment until you have heard the other side. Because if you run into conclusion by virtue of listening to one side, and the other side comes up with a story very strong enough to contradict what the other person is saying, then whatever conclusion you may have drawn at the beginning will be most unfortunate on that person. So we've heard some of them. Prof. Kwam was here this morning. He's actually tried to rebut some of them, and my brother has indicated that in his attempt to rebut it, he fell into contradictions and etc. But at least he tried to explain himself and his side of the story. Again, I've heard Gabi. He has also responded, and he said that he placed a 4-minute phone call, you know, and that has been misunderstood and misconstrued and all that. That is also his position and his response. I've also heard Lord Comey, the Director of Operations at the Office of the President. He has also responded and denied whatever allegations were made against him. I think that it is, if you also look at even the report itself, the statement by the journalist, as referred to by my brother Sam George, with whom I'm sometimes well pleased. Now, if you look at the statement, this was a statement given to the police, I believe. Yeah. Yes. So it means that some investigation was being done. You know, what we need to do is now to follow up to know the outcome of that investigation. But some investigation was indeed being done. That is why somebody went to give a statement. But clearly, we as lawyers, we will say that this is a confession statement. That's a confession statement because he states without equivocation that he had received various sums of money and deposited in his account and all that, but he has no authority whatsoever. He didn't tell us that he had authority to receive those monies.
But
legal authority.
On the basis of this copy you have, which we also have a copy, I'm sure, on the screen right now, this police statement by the said journalist is a confession statement that indeed
he committed an offense. Yes.
And you have established that the details of the report, at least in the face of it, establishes some prima facie.
Yes. At least as far as this journalist statement is concerned, there's a prima facie case for him to answer.
Fantastic. Does it not worry you that between March 19, 2021 and now, there is no clear evidence of any action taken by the presidency on this matter? Because, as you have established, that there was indeed there is prima facie evidence in the details of this report. You know, the president, or as it were, the details we have seen, been enough basis for the president to take certain actions? Mr. Kpemka.
First of all, let me draw your attention to something. Earlier, this report, for me, as it is now, which some of them are being contradicted, others stand uncontested so far, should have even come earlier, in my candid opinion. Why? Because I find that probably, if the minister had retained his position, he may never have written this one. That's my understanding of the situation, because most of these things he talked about happened as far back as 2017 and 2018. Mm-hmm. But he was minister all until 2020. Mm-hmm. And no report of that nature was written, but this one was 2021, I believe.
This was contained in his handing over report.
That is the point. So if it was good intentioned, then it should have been earlier, so that, I mean, we would have the benefit of discussing it in detail to find out. But you were exiting government, and you put that in your handing over notes. It could have been done earlier to draw attention to the actors and players.
But we
so is it good intention? Because, for example, if, let's say that he was retained as Minister for Environment and he was handing over to himself, do you think that we would have found this piece of information? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. But your question specific about the actions, I wouldn't know specifically what actions have been taken with respect to the report that was submitted to the office of Chief of Staff. At least in the
case of the former member of parliament who was with us in the studio this morning, he says nobody has called him. Between 2021 and now, he's been captured in this report with these damning allegations against him. And per Gabi Asor-Chidako's interview, he also says that the president, I mean, he asks that, look, why should Professor Afepo go and report me to the president? And what can the president do? What was he expressing the president to do? To call me, to ask me questions?
You know, I know why he asked that, because it's very clear why Gabi asked the question he asked. Because he's not a government appointee. He was stating his position that he was acting as a private legal practitioner for his client. So he wasn't somebody who was accustomed to the direction and control of the president at that time.
Yes.
You know, because the president doesn't control the actions of individual private lawyers.
Precisely.
So that is his defense that he was raising, which is genuine.
I only made reference
by all intent and purposes, that's a genuine defense that anybody can proffer. If, let's say that Gabi was holding a public office and conducted himself in the manner that he did, then one would have said that he used his position as a public officer to influence another minister for the benefit of... So there you can establish crime, you can establish some kind of influence peddling and etc. against him. But in this particular case, he said he did it as lawyer for his client.
Great. Now, and the question I'm asking is not necessarily to, as it were, send any indication of indictment against all the persons captured in here, including Gabi Asor-Chidakom. What I'm saying is that since you agree that some prima facie evidence has been established, at least per the details of this report, you are asking if there was evidence of any action by the presidency. And I'm saying that per the commentary of the persons, some of the persons who have been captured in there, it clearly indicates that there was no action, or they weren't even invited to at least answer questions, not to indict. You know what? Your name has been captured in this report, handed over to me by the former minister.
It's possible references have been made to the security to investigate these matters. Some of these matters, they could refer it straight to the security to investigate. And they don't need to put out statements to tell you that we've received a report from the Minister for Environment on the basis of which we've commissioned people to investigate. They could refer it for investigations. So it's possible investigations have been conducted into the matter. Again, as I indicated, what is in public domain now is the fact that a statement was written by Seth Mante to the police. We can trace to that police station and know when he wrote the statement and then how far, whether they have built a duplicate docket on it and whether they are prosecuting or if they forwarded it to the Office of Attorney General and etc. We can make further inquiry because these are public records. You know, I mean, you don't give police statement in a bedroom. You give it at a police station. And so these are public records. So we can now follow up and know what actions were taken thereafter. Okay. Again, we can also follow up and find out, I mean, you are a reputed house. You can find out if some other further actions have been taken on this matter after the report was submitted to the office of
But if there was action taken, wouldn't there be evidence to that effect that indeed action
of course, indeed, there will be evidence.
Good. And now we don't know, and we haven't seen any evidence to that effect, correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Great. But that will not also mean that there was no action taken. But the fact that you don't have any evidence doesn't mean, because until we get a clear, categorical statement from the office of Chief of Staff, you cannot come to that conclusion.
Respectfully, you know that if they are being, for instance, prosecuted or investigation is taking place, there will be public document.
That's what I indicate. Absolutely.
Respectfully.
Absolutely.
As we speak now, there is no evidence of any investigation. The only investigation which was made public, the directive to investigate, which was made public by the president, was after Professor Kwabena Boateng gave this interview to GTV a couple of weeks ago. Then he made the allegation that even people, he has heard that even people at the Jubilee House are engaged in legal mining. It was after that that we read of a public directive from the presidency for investigations to be conducted into that said allegation by him on that during that interview on GTV. So that directive was public. So we're making reference to this. Would you also admit, respectfully, that if there was any directive into this particular detail, there would have been some sort of public record to review that indeed the president took action in investigating the details of this said report by Professor Kwabena Boateng? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, so what I have indicated to you is that, you see, as you have pointed out yourself, it was part of handing over notes of the minister at the time, and he has spoken to it of recent times. Remember that this was a situation where it wasn't a change of government from one party to the other. It was a continuation, right? So you have all the sectors and the various ministers submitting their reports. Government will have to go through, review most of these handing over notes and find out where questions are there to be answered. The questions are answered. So the fundamental thing we should be looking at is looking at all the ministries put together and the handing over notes that would have been written by all the ministers and etc. Fact is that government has to go through them. And I don't have any evidence that government has gone through all of them and yet has come to a conclusion that there's a need for someone to answer but hasn't asked the person to answer. I don't have that evidence that government has failed to act after taking notice of this, because that will even contradict what His Excellency the President directed after the statement was made by Professor Frimpong Boateng on that medium that, look, he had said A, B, C, D, and the President thereafter directed that investigations be conducted into it. Because remember that I heard him this morning when you played the tape. It was very emphatic. He said that some people at Jubilee House were engaged in Galamsey and etc. So in that case, when a report is made to the security agencies, it will be for him to now provide evidence to support the security agencies to be able to build a case, probably against those named individuals. But to make a sweeping statement that some people without being specific, and then you mention names of people who are involved. Because remember that even the two people he mentioned at the Jubilee House, that would be Captain Koda and Lord Comey, have both come out to state, I mean, at least Lord Comey has come out to state his position. Even Captain Koda's response, if you look at it, wasn't per se that he was doing Galamsey. It wasn't.